So the Bhagavad Gita Mananam we are doing. So the last yesterday we looked at the first shlokas in the first chapter and some shlokas in the second chapter. So now, as we looked at Arjuna's situation and what Arjuna went through, and the different challenges that Arjuna was experiencing mentally, emotionally, which compelled him to tell Krishna that I am not willing to fight this battle because I don't want to kill my own kindred, my own people. So that we contemplated on how this presents the situation in our lives as well, right? And so as we continue with the Manana today, let's look at that shloka where Arjuna has so far mentioned. So in this shloka, Arjuna says that Karpanya dosha, he's mentioning how that dosha will come. Karpanya dosha pahatasvabhavaha prachamitvam dharma samuda chetaha. My mind is deluded by what is right, what is not right. The conflict between doing the right thing and not doing the right thing. So this conflict is also the conflict between that shreyas and prayers, that which is the higher, loftier spiritual path in our lives, and that sense-based pleasures, that egoic pleasures, that and interests, passions that we are seeking. That which is shreyas leads us to peace and happiness. That which is prayers will bring us more troubles, anxieties, and insecurities, and things like that. So, yet nishchitam bruhitan me, to tell me that path. So, this is that guidance that all of us want to seek. And then, in order to do that, we need to have that sense of humility. And then that is where he says, Shishyasteham shadi mam tvam prapannam. So this is a very important point, that I am that shishya, I am that disciple. That so until we come to this point, it is hard to get the teachings. I am your disciple. I take refuge in your wisdom. So this is also an important point. So when we seek become a shishya, it is not like we are becoming just a slave to somebody. That guru, real guru disciple, is that you are seeking wisdom in their, you're seeking refuge in their wisdom, in their higher guidance. That higher guidance, that wisdom that they are giving, in that we are seeking refuge, that surrender, because our own intellect is limited, and so we seek that intellect. Okay. So the questions, we looked at it. So these are the questions that we have to also ask ourselves, right? That when there is weakness, limitations, what do I seek for? Do I have the humility to seek not just guidance from others specifically, but also from what the scriptures is telling me to do? What is the right thing to do? So all of us have different opinions, different thoughts, and different so-called intuitions, that intuitions also, we have to carefully review those intuitions we get, because some of them are just like our impulses, our habitual impulses. They also make us do things. And then there are those karmic impulses also that direct us to go in that path of certain karmic things, which has to, once we come into the path of wisdom, we have to use the wisdom, not be led by that, because even this is where they say, at the point of death as well, that karmic impulses take us to seeking another rebirth against our higher intentions. So that is where we have to, that all the way it works. Okay. And then we discuss this, that main aspect where he's now become ready. That readiness is in a mental state, that mental receptivity. And this mental receptivity all through our day, that we have to keep strong vigilance on. Okay, now begins some teachings that Lord is going to share. And okay, so this next is Sri Bhagavan Vacha. So Lord begins his teachings. He says, Ashochya nanvashochastvam prajna vadanscha bhashase gata suna gata sunscha nanushochanti panditaha. So he says that Arjuna, you have been grieving for those who should not be grieved for. Meaning he's trying to think what will happen to my people, all those who will die in the war. So this is that false sense of sympathy, right? We get burdened with in our life. We sometimes get this false sense of sympathy that what will happen to those people if I am not there or if I don't help them. So that he says you are speaking like the voice by the wise people, meaning that you have your own opinions. You're saying that this is the right thing, and so this is again, this is not coming from real understanding of scriptures, real understanding of what the rishis taught us. It is coming from our limited intellect. So those who are truly wise, those who have real wisdom, they do not mourn for those who are dead, nor for those who are living. Meaning, you don't kind of feel like this person is going to die, because a person is not limited to that body, right? So we can have concerns for someone whose health is not well or who is at critical stage, but we should not get deluded that that's the end of them. That soul never dies, really, right? That is the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. So the Mananam, how do we use this in our life? How do we try to apply this? So these are some questions we can ask that. So first thing is we have to be careful on how we use the teachings. Our opinions should not get unfounded opinions. That is not based on the real insight, real realizations. That is not based especially on the scriptural teachings in its pure essence. So this is where, many times people use that, right? So we have to ask ourselves, sometimes do I look for those things in the teachings which justify my position, my opinion? So that is also a big trap. Once we learn teachings, once we learn what people tell us, we can get trapped into thinking that this teachings, I know about it and I use it to enforce my own position. So that is one thing we can always be vigilant of. And then most importantly, like Arjuna, am I seeking that easy way out? Or am I brave enough to do what is difficult? So what are our challenges in life? What are our conditions? Where are we willing to do that, which takes a little effort, but which brings us to the higher path, which brings us to a higher degree of happiness? And then for those, when we talk about those who are dying or those who are passed away, what is the best way to really honor them? Is it by grief? Of course, grief is a natural emotion that we experience when somebody close to us pass away, But the real essence of everyone is that they exist in our memory, right? What is that memory we want to carry of somebody? Is that their values? What is it that they have given us in terms of understanding, wisdom, affection? So that is how we kind of honor people who pass away. Especially, like many saints who pass away, or many gurus, or our own mentors in our life. How do we honor them? So if we really tried, we should list down what are the qualities in them, what are the virtues in them that I want to practice in my life, or the ones that they asked me to practice. So this is the best way to honor people, those who are alive and those who are passed away. If we have deep affection for somebody, this is how we should honor them. So we can all look into that. So some inspirational words. To walk the talk is a sign of mental strength. So what we say, what we think, what we tell others, what we preach, we should be able to follow that. Otherwise, there is a discrepancy. So this is where, the Gita and other things are not just text. We talk to others. We try to apply it in our life. I mean, we can do our best. There is always some limitations, and it's always a work in progress. But we should be conscious that this is how I want to live my life. Okay, so we discussed the rest of it. The next Shloka 13 we will take up. Then here it is again a relative teaching, that in Bhagavad Gita there are ultimate level teachings and relative level teachings. Relative level teachings is at the worldly level, what is dharma, adharma, and at the soul level, that soul, it goes from body to body. How does it choose another body? So all that teachings also is part of the Bhagavad Gita teachings that Lord is giving. So here he says, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara prapte dhiras tatra namuyati. So there, this shloka, Bhagavan is saying that just as a soul, this is that embodied soul, what we call as that jivatma, that the one which is identified with that sukshma sharira, or the subtle body. So it carries that storage of that samskaras, that impressions, and the karmic, the karmic bond. So as it passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age, similarly that body attains that soul attains another body after death. So see, what is that thing that is constant in us in all through our life? That soul has that sense of same identification. When we were a boy or a girl, and now we are youth, and then we are getting old. So all these phases, that I has not changed. That sense of me, that remains that same, right? So similarly, after death also, the one who dies, that after that, that soul goes to another body. So a wise person is not affected that I'm getting old or I'm dying. That state of that soul as me, that will continue to stay. Okay, some mananam. How do we do mananam on this? How do we reflect on this? So just as how that soul, when the body changes, we tend to resist the changes in our life. When people are getting old, there is a tendency to feel that, okay, life is all gone. There's nothing more to life. There is a resistance there as we get older. We cannot do all those things. So that how do we work in our own life? We should watch. When that youthful energy or good health is there, I'm okay. When there is a little ill health, I'm upset. So, of course, physically, sometimes when there is ill health, it is hard and it is challenging. But internally, mentally, we have to learn to make peace with that. So we have to ask ourselves, how do I get affected when this happens? Do I get really affected when there is ill health or some challenges physically? And then what does it mean to remain mentally steady amidst all those physical changes? Knowing that everything in nature is constantly undergoing changes. That body is constantly undergoing change. And this is what Arjuna is being told here, that all your people, they were not always young, they are old. Similarly, they will die. Whether they die in the battle or they die elsewhere. They will die because that is the nature of life. There is birth, growth, aging, and death. These are the natural process of life. And so then we have to ask ourselves personally, is it possible that I self-impose on myself limitations in life based on my physical features and age? Like when I'm aging, when things are this, do I impose, do I put limitations on myself? Okay. Okay, then some inspiration that in the Creator's highest wisdom, meaning that in the Lord's creation, our body has been designed to be changing so that we might realize our changeless nature. So, in that anitya is that nitya. In all those changes of life, there is something nitya. What is that nitya? That is a changeless nature of our being. So this is that manana we should do. This is a reflection. Our body is constantly going through the process of change. So what is it in me that is unchanging? So reflect on that, and so this is a practical kind of reflection we have to do in our life. Like when everything that is changing, that observer of that, that knower of that, is that also changing? So if I'm affected by the change, then yes, that mentally I feel I'm looking from the mind, then I get affected by the change. What is it that remains unchanging when, even like when you're healthy or you're sick? What is that that knows that you're healthy? What is it that knows you are not healthy? That changeless nature, that which is not subject to change. That is that quest of that Atma. So similarly, like another thing that especially people who are concerned a lot about the body, that we constantly tend to think of the beauty of the body, right? That as we get a little older, that beauty of that body doesn't remain that same. There is a what is that real beauty? There is a physical beauty, of course, but that kind of beauty is just based on perceptions, senses. So it is not necessary that that beauty of physical thing will always give joy. You know, that beauty of some person or some we admire. It is not necessary that that physical perception will also give us that mental happiness, that physical perception of beauty which gives us a certain excitement. Mentally, when you associate with them, it is not necessary that you will feel that same happy, right? So that real beauty is that first is that beauty that comes from qualities, uh, that mental qualities of a person, which can actually, and this is why, like sometimes, like being with somebody who is old or somebody is wise or somebody who's loving can give us more joy than with somebody who's just physically beauty. And more important than that is that seeing the beauty of one's atma, consciousness and soul, and realizing that this person, whether he's physically beautiful or not, mentally beautiful or not, he or she is that same essence as my being, you know and that is the higher beauty we see in people, that looking beyond the physical beauty and looking beyond their mental challenges, anxiety problems or whatever thing, we learn to see that they're really beautiful. Everyone is really beautiful at the core, at the essence. That is that real perception of a yogi, and that is what we have to also try to look in our lives. Okay. Next point, next shloka. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama paino nityas tam titikshasva bharata. Heat, cold, pleasure, pain. These arise when our senses come in contact with external objects. Like our external objects, the external objects and the sense organs, when they come into contact, there is an experience of physical sensation. Everything has, first there is a physical sensation, and then it is followed by a mental feeling, meaning I like this, I don't like this, and this happens so fast. Everything, we see something and there is a sensation in our body internally, and immediately the mind reacts, oh, this is good, this is bad. And this process is so fast that the next moment I act based on that. So, but these experiences, they have a beginning and an end. They are transient, meaning that none of them are forever. These sensations and the mental reactions, they come and go. They're there for a minute, they're a second, and then they go. But most of us, we make a decision, we act, we follow up immediately on that. And that is what leads to problem. That is what leads us to attachment, or that is raga, and dvesha is aversion. Attachment and aversion. Okay, manana. How do we apply it in our life? Just as our body and mental states are changing, can we be aware of these mental states without first judging them as good and bad? Have to work on in our daily life. Every moment in our life, whatever things is happening, first we have to become aware. Non-judgmentally being aware that this is happening in our life, in this moment. I see something I like and there's a mental reaction, and before I realize, I go behind that. I seek that. So this is what keeps us in bondage. We don't have that independent ability to decide, because first thing is to be aware. And the next thing is to be aware that that subtle background of awareness, it is always the same. It doesn't have biases really. We get attached to that, even that feelings of anger, sadness, moods, fears, and even the sense of excitement and happiness. We get attached to that, right? So you can look at in your own life, what is it that keeps you constantly involved, like something which you get anxious about, something which you get worried about, something which you feel too excited about. That what happens, first thing, are you aware when it arises? And before you get identified with that, can you remain in that awareness? See, like even when we get angry, like the notion is, when anger comes, the first thought is, okay, I'm angry. And then what happens, that you get identified with that anger, and you get angry because you're getting angry sometimes, right? So this is because we don't stay in that state of awareness. Because when we really observe from that awareness, that anger is an emotion which comes, it stays for a while, and it will go away if you don't tamper too much with that. If you remain as an awareness, then that anger is arising and anger is going. You are not angry. You as a consciousness are never really angry. You are just aware of that anger that's coming, or that anxiety, or whatever emotions. Even fear, fear is also like that. Many of us in the Himalayas, sometimes we would practice with when we see some wild animals. It's like an opportunity for us, when we see a huge python or a leopard or something, it's a good opportunity to practice, stay in that awareness. Of course, if you have to run sometimes. Okay. The one more point of contemplation here is, do I feel that I can no longer endure something? This is also, like especially something is too prolonged, some kind of sickness or some situation in our life, we think this is forever. This will always be like that. But no situation in life is forever. Unfortunately, even good situations sometimes, meaning worldly good situations, they also come and go. So patience, titiksha, These are very important things to take, So we have to watch ourselves, right? If there are some things in our life, some people, some situations, or some environment, some house, there's some problem there. It was not going to be there forever. There's either that you will move to a new place, or that place will change, or that person will change. Some things will happen. Sometimes it takes longer, but it does change. So there's some inspirational thoughts. So in the grand scheme of life, we weren't designed to dwell on past memories of this life. So sometimes we just take this memories of this life only. But really what we have to dwell on is on that lost memory of our innate soul nature, consciousness, that pure nature. That is where all the happiness lies. Don't waste time begging from life the petty experiences of fleeting happiness. Because that real nature, nothing ever can disturb us. That pure content, soul nature is what, if we are not able to even kind of intellectually believe in this, we have to start by at least looking at, try to look for those glimpses. Ideally, we should at least have intellectual conviction to start with. But if not, then try to look for that sense of, we can look for that experiential awareness that in the worst situation, I'm really okay. That a sense of me is okay. And if you look at your own life, when something really bad happened, like you lost somebody, or even if you had a physical accident, that essence of your being, that has not changed. The essence of consciousness when that accident or thing happened, and today it has not changed. Okay, so we will just do one more shloka. The next shloka, Bhagavan here is saying, Yamhina vyatayantyete purusham purushashava samadukka sukham dhiram somrutatvaya kalpate. So now comes the important theme of whole of Bhagavad Gita. The whole theme of Bhagavad Gita revolves around this. What is it? Samadukka sukham dhiram. A dhira, a courageous person, the one who has wisdom. What does he do? He sees pleasures as pain as equal. He doesn't get disturbed, and he is steady, and he is fit for immortality, meaning he realizes his true nature. This is the central theme of Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes people think that Bhagavad Gita is about knowing Lord as Bhagavan, as Krishna. Of course, all that is also there. But the main message of Bhagavad Gita is this. Samadukka sukham dhiram. That seeing that having that samatva, that equanimity, that sense of stability, mental stability. Whatever happens in life, we don't get too elated, nor do we get too disturbed. We are learning to be inwardly happy, whatever is happening in life, inwardly content. This is the important theme, and we will just look at this. So when we really look at happiness, we can try to see in our life, where do I experience that happiness? Where do I experience sadness? Meaning that, is it really outward, that happiness is outward, it is an external experience, or is it just an internal mental state that is coming and going? And we can also observe, like we can see, you can pick up some situation in your life. How does one object bring sorrow to you? But some person, maybe you don't like them, but that person in itself may be a source of happiness to somebody. Or that food, that one food, you may be your favorite food, but for somebody they don't like that food. Some weather. So this situation is actually neutral, right? It is our mental reaction to that. So this ability to see that how my mind is reacting to that situation. And then can you observe that ultimately that mere awareness itself, that awareness itself is not changed. The awareness of whatever objects we see, that itself doesn't change. So in our own life, we can see whenever we experience that objects come and go. It's like if you are sitting somewhere in the ocean, by the ocean, that seashore. The waves are coming and going, right? The different waves are coming, different waves are going. But that observing you are there stable, right? Similarly, we have to see our life situations. They are like that. Situations, people, conditions, all that come and go. Okay, this is some inspiration. Immortality is the secret desire of every living being, right? We all want to be eternal. We all want to always stay. But yet we are inherently afraid of death, right from a small insect to that human being. There is an inherent fear of death. So what is dying and what is immortal? This is the whole teaching, So that physical body, that all that aggregation of body, mind, senses, these things are subject to coming and going. They are not eternal. So if we are deluded, we expect them to become immortal. So we have to ask ourselves, what is that which is immortal? That immortal is that consciousness, that awareness. So the one who realizes the self to be beyond the body and mind, they are not troubled by the changing condition of the body or the senses or the mind or the environment. And that person becomes immortal, and he realizes that he or she was in essence ever immortal. Amritatva is that quest. So again, I like to recommend all of you should make some notes, some thoughts of, because these are not just, shouldn't take it just as another pravachan, and we should spend some time reflecting on some of these points. By just listening also, there is a power. Inherent listening will allow us to reflect on these thoughts, manana. But if you consciously engage at these thoughts when those troubled, difficult situations come, that is when transformation happens. So keep those thoughts, reflect on them, if possible, write on them. So the Manana, this second chapter is in a way the whole summary of the different teachings of Bhagavad Gita. All of them are compressed in the second chapter. So it is a very useful one to do Mananam about. Okay. Thank you all. Namaste.